Hey there. Had a couple questions I'm going to answer today. First one is from a young lady named Linda. So Linda asked, how can she get off her insulin safely? This was in response to a video I did a week or so ago about kind of the state of diabetes care at this point, how well it works. So Linda, it's kind of a complicated question. First of all, scope of practice wise, as a chiropractor, it's outside my scope to deal with prescription medications and tell people what to do with those. So I'm going to present this kind of in general theory for you. If you are, to distill it down, I guess, you get off the insulin when you no longer need the insulin, right? If your blood sugar is staying where you want it and you haven't taken insulin, then you can't take insulin. Right? If you take insulin when your blood sugar is already low or already, normal, you're going to drive it too low and you'll need to eat something to bring the blood sugar back up again, which is kind of defeats the purpose of taking the insulin. So that's the short answer. Now, the complicated part. If you are a type 2 diabetic who has developed the need for insulin, meaning you've been resistant to insulin for a while. You've made as much insulin as you possibly can. And now your pancreas basically says, I don't think I can do this anymore. I'm not going to make much insulin. And so they start giving you what we would call exogenous insulin, insulin from an outside source. There's potential there because your pancreas still makes some, just not enough. And so if your need was to go down dramatically, you might actually make enough for that. So what I've presented in the past about intermittent fasting and episodic fasting and low carbohydrate diets and not requiring much insulin from your body or from any source really, that has potential for someone in that situation. Needs to be monitored by a doctor, obviously. If someone is insulin dependent and starts a prolonged fast and their need for insulin drops dramatically, but they don't notice that and they keep using insulin, that can be deadly. So it's very serious stuff. How can you do it safely? Do it under the monitoring of a qualified physician, do it under someone who's willing to help you do it, and monitor yourself at very regular intervals. And hopefully you've been monitoring blood sugar levels for a while and you're pretty adept at doing it. Now, if you're a type 1 diabetic who's insulin dependent, meaning your pancreas doesn't make insulin, the chances that you don't need any insulin anymore are probably really slim. Now, are there going to be days and times where you don't need insulin? Could you do a 2 or 3 day fast where you don't use insulin for most of that time? Could you eat a diet where your need for insulin is super low compared to what it used to be? Sure, I think there's potential there. I think there are lots of cases where that's been done. Mostly going to be on a ketogenic diet or at least a cyclical ketogenic diet where you're in ketosis or eating a ketogenic diet for 3-4 days at a time, and then you come back out and eat kind of a low carb paleo and then back into ketosis. So under those circumstances, I think it could probably be done. Safely, still, it's a matter of monitoring. How closely are you monitoring your blood sugar levels? How well educated are you about that? Worth mentioning, if you get off your insulin for a while, let's say, first example, with the type 2 diabetic who's progressed to being insulin dependent. You get to a point where you're not needing insulin, you're off your insulin for a while. If you go back and start eating a higher carbohydrate diet, there's a very good chance you're going to need insulin again. Nothing's been cured. You've just adapted to what your body can produce. If your body can only produce X amount of insulin, and you've changed your diet so you need a little bit less than that, you don't have to supplement with insulin. You haven't cured anything. If you start eating a diet that requires more insulin again, you're going to require insulin from an outside source if it goes beyond what your body can produce on its own. So this is really just about compensating. Now, yes, if you rest the pancreas enough, could it regain some of its ability to produce insulin? Yeah, I mean, I think it can under those circumstances. Now, if you're a 9-year-old kid and there's been an autoimmune problem that's eaten up the cells in your pancreas that produce insulin, or if you had a virus that attacked it or something, are you going to get that back? I think it's less likely. There are cases where it's happened, it's just less likely. So I hope that answers your question about how can I get off my insulin safely. I would say it's more about why you were put on it in the first place and how well, carefully, frequently, diligently you can monitor your blood sugar so that you know whether you're doing it safely. And then working with a physician who knows what they're doing, or a doctor that's qualified and willing to help you succeed at that. So I hope that answers your question. If it didn't, certainly let me know, and I'll fill in the blanks as best I can. Otherwise, thanks for watching, everybody. Feel free to pass it around. I hope everybody can benefit from information like this, and I'll see you on the next video.